They met in college, purely by chance. It was orientation week at a university in Chicago. Amelia, a pre-med major with a sharp wit and a love for coffee, got lost trying to find her classroom. Jason, a computer science freshman, noticed her confused face and offered to help. That 5-minute walk to the right building sparked a friendship that would quietly outlast most relationships around them. Over the next 10 years, they lived parallel lives, always close, but never quite together. They texted constantly. When Amelia's cat died, Jason was the one who showed up at her apartment with tissues and tacos. When Jason flunked a coding interview, it was Amelia who talked him through his self-doubt at 2 a.m. They celebrated birthdays together, showed up at each other's family dinners, and watched each other date the wrong people, again and again. Friends would often say, "You two act like a married couple," to which they would just laugh. They believed they knew each other too well to ever date. There was no mystery, no chase. "We're just best friends," Amelia would say, even though her heart occasionally hesitated when Jason smiled at her just a little too long. By their late 20s, things had changed. Careers took off. Amelia was working in emergency medicine, Jason had launched his own tech startup. Life got busier. Their calls became fewer. Messages took longer to respond. One winter evening, after a particularly exhausting ER shift, Amelia sat in her car in the hospital parking lot and cried, not because of work, but because she realized Jason hadn't called in weeks, and she missed him more than she thought was normal. The next day, she texted him. "Hey. You free to catch up soon? It's been forever." Jason replied instantly. "Absolutely. Coffee Sunday?" They met at their usual spot, a quiet coffee shop they had been visiting since sophomore year. This time, something was different. The conversation was slower, deeper. There were long pauses that felt like unspoken confessions. Finally, Jason broke the silence. "Amelia, have you ever thought maybe we've been too careful with each other?" She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe we've been avoiding the one relationship that actually makes the most sense." The words sat in the air like heavy truth. Amelia's heart raced. She'd thought about it, of course. But she always pushed it aside, afraid to ruin the friendship, afraid of the risk. But in that moment, she realized something: every failed relationship had one thing in common: it wasn't Jason. They talked for hours that day, finally voicing what they had buried under years of denial and fear. And it was terrifying, but freeing. They started dating. It was awkward at first. Their first, official, date felt strange, like trying to fit into a jacket you've already been wearing, but now realizing it has your name stitched inside. They already knew each other's quirks, families, flaws, and dreams. But now there were new layers: romance, intimacy, vulnerability. And yet, it felt right. Completely and utterly right. There was no pretending. No masks. No needing to impress. They were home to each other. A year later, Jason proposed in the most them way possible, on the bench outside their old coffee shop, the same place where they first realized the truth. No fancy dinner. No rehearsed speech. Just a simple, "You've been my best friend for a decade. Now I want to be your husband for life." Amelia said yes, through happy tears and a smile that didn't fade for days. They got married in a small backyard ceremony surrounded by the people who had watched their story unfold, friends who always said, "We knew it." And maybe that's the beauty of it. Sometimes, the strongest love isn't the one that starts with fireworks or butterflies. Sometimes, it's the quiet, steady kind that grows slowly, deeply, and becomes unshakable. The kind that starts with friendship, and ends with forever. Direct hit moral of the story. We often search far and wide for the one, overlooking the person who's been right beside us all along. Sometimes, love isn't about finding someone new, it's about seeing someone familiar in a new light.